Assalamu alaikum.
How better?
So thank you.
Good that you have done your written part of the examination. This is a good achievement.
Thank you very much.
You may like to introduce to all of us, please.
Sir, so my name is Hassan Tahir. I belong to district Jung, which is famous for a renowned Sufi poet, Sultan Bahu, a renowned physicist, Dr. Abdul Salam, and a local folk story, Hir Ranja. My father is an assistant professor. I have one young sibling, and I have recently completed my graduation in law from Punjab University, and now I am here after having qualified my written part. Thank you.
You tell us, what is law?
So law is basically an established norm which every citizen of a state is supposed to follow, and which is a combination of norms which are generally followed in a society, and state is supposed to penalize someone if someone tries to go against those norms. So that is all about law.
How laws are made in Pakistan?
Yes, so definitely according to the Constitution of Pakistan, there is a certain written procedure to make laws. First of all, one has to introduce it in the lower house of parliament, that is National Assembly. A bill is supposed to be there. Then after having passed from that, it has to be introduced in Senate. And when it is passed by the 2/3 majority over there, then it has to be passed by the President of Pakistan. And after the President's approval, then it becomes law. So this is how laws are made in Pakistan.
So you are competing for the administrative services of Pakistan.
Sir.
You tell me, what do you know about Pakistan?
So Pakistan is a country with great potential. If we begin with our social phenomena, we have a great diversity, which is still unexplored. And if we try to explore it, then definitely it will offer a lot of opportunities to learn from it. Economically, we are an agricultural country. Yes, in the past, we have been negligent in paying our focus on that, but still that is of great potential. In technology, we can have a great potential, and in politics, definitely we have such a great number of intelligentsia, but unfortunately, due to the absence of debate culture and due to the absence of freedom of expression, most of the intelligentsia like to remain behind the scene, and they avoid being on the front and being on the media. So that's all about Pakistan.
What is the relationship of how we regulate our relationship under the Constitution between the federal government and the provincial government?
According to the Part 5 of Constitution, there are certain parameters which define different terms of relations, be it economic, council of common interest, and then some division of political and administrative powers, which tend to define the relationship between federal and provincial governments. And when it comes to some kind of conflict between both of these, then yes, definitely there are bodies like Council of Common Interest, which are supposed to play their role in order to settle those matters.
What is the role of Federal Public Service Commission? How you analyze it?
So the role of Federal Public Service Commission has been very positive in the past. We have seen and we have heard no controversy about it, and that's fundamental role.
How they regulate the relationship between federation and the provinces?
So my apologies for that. I am not aware of that.
So you are coming from Punjab.
Sir.
So you are competing against certain quota in the federal services.
Surely I am going for that.
So they are regulating. They are ensuring the quota system.
Sir, thank you. Thank you.
What do you know about the resource distribution system in the Federation of Pakistan, between Federation and the provinces?
So when it comes to resource distribution, there is a body which is called National Finance Commission, which has been established by the Constitution of Pakistan. So it is his primary responsibility to ensure the equal distribution of resources between Federation and different provinces.
You identify what type of economic challenges this country is facing and what could be the possible solution for those.
Right, sir. So to the first part of question, there are a number of challenges faced by the Pakistan when it comes to economic system. First of all, I believe, as Dr. Ishrat Hussain writes in his book, that is, Pakistan's fundamental model of economic growth is unsustainable. We take loans, we try to inject them in entirely useless products, and after a certain period of time, we have to knock the door of IMF once again. So this is how the model overall is unsustainable. And second, there is trend deficit, which is fiscal deficit and then trade deficit. When it comes to fiscal deficit, there is a gap between what Pakistan earns through its taxes and what we expend in the form of expenditures. And then there is trade deficit, the gap between exports and imports. And the fourth factor is human development. In the past, we have continued to ignore to invest on our people in terms of education, in terms of health, and in terms of everything which could be helpful in making our citizen able to achieve certain ends. So this is how I see the economic problems of Pakistan.
What is your date of birth?
So 12 December 1998.
As a young man, you go to the market
Sir,
for certain shopping. What is your feeling? What you observe?
so when I go to market for shopping, I observe a number of things. First of all, there are people who seem worried when it comes to inflation. And I think you're pointing towards inflation, which should be, I believe that inflation is not an economic issue. This is an effect of the issues which I have mentioned. So this is how I look at inflation, and inflation is there, which we see on the faces of multiple people.
Have you got any job experience?
No, sir.
So this is the first job which you are looking for.
Sir.
Okay. Thank you. Please, sir.
Criminal justice, you have done your LLB. Tell us, what reforms do you think are required to improve the criminal justice system of our country?
So basically, I have to identify briefly the issues faced by the criminal justice system, and then it would be possible to suggest some measures in order to address that.
Just suggest measures.
So first of all, we have to increase the number of courts because our courts are overburdened. And secondly, we have different versions of legal code. For example, we have a state law, we have a Sharia law, and then we have some local laws, for example, Pashtun Wali. So most of the people continue to have their own version of law. So first of all, we have, through constitutional measures, we have to define a single constitutional system or a single law that needs to be followed throughout the country. So these are the two measures I think we should. And then police culture, definitely. There is an image issue with the police culture. There is a gap between a common citizen and what police, how police behaves. So these are the three measures which we can take to improve that system.
With your LLB background qualification, do you think you will make out a good police officer?
So definitely, I think I could be a good police officer because I have.
You should give some solid argument.
In this regard, my argument is that I have a law background and law is quite helpful. And then more than law, the image problem is with police. Our police have continued to face the image problem, and that is due to the gap between a citizen and police officers. So already our police officers are doing their best job in order to do that. They are trying to hold public
What will
courts.
you do as a DPO? What will you do to improve the image of the police?
First of all, I would go for holding public sessions. I would go to the public and I would hold public courts over there, and then I would try to listen what actual problems are there which the people are facing. And when there would be a direct contact between me and an ordinary citizen, definitely I would be able to have a certain reasonable knowledge about that. And then having known that, I would be in a position to address those issues. So this is how I would like to do.
Tell us about sections of CRPC which relate to the police working.
It begins with 154, where registration of FIR takes place. and then 156 where investigation begins, and after that it continues in a series.
What is 157?
So exactly 157, my apologies for that, I am unable to recall that exactly. But here investigation begins, and when investigation begins, then a trial starts in the court, and court has two options: either
There are other sections. There are other sections. Before the trial starts, there are a number of other sections in the CRPC relating to the police regarding the investigation about the witnesses.
sir, definitely there are.
You should know them.
So my
When
apologies
you
for
go,
that.
please study this chapter.
Thank you.
How will you distinguish between CRPC and PPC?
PPC, Pakistan Penal Code, it means that that's a theoretical law upon which we try to build our theoretical framework, and criminal procedure code is practical
What do
procedural
you
law.
mean by theoretical law? It's a theoretical law.
I mean that it provides a certain direction, that there is a certain offense and then how it should be dealt with, and there are a number of ways to deal with that, and then there are certain punishments.
Yes. And CRPC?
So that guides us in a practical way how to deal with who has done offense.
Okay. You have opted for customs also.
So my third group is custom.
Third group. What can you tell us about the working of the customs department?
Basically, this department has to look at exports and imports, what comes from outside into the country, and then what goes from inside outside the country. So they have to supervise it.
What do they do? They supervise it, but they're doing something more to. There's something doing more.
So yes, they do have certain mechanisms to do that.
What can you tell us about the British parliamentary system?
So actually, British parliamentary system has a certain history, if we want to begin with that. And there is a Magna Carta in 1215. And after that, in the history of British parliamentary system, from where it properly begins, that is Glorious Revolution. After Glorious Revolution, we have seen the development of Parliament, Prime Minister and Cabinet, because George I, who appeared as a king in Britain, he knew nothing in English. So he preferred to give this task to those who know, who can talk and who can exchange their views in English. So George I shifted it, and then there came Prime Minister, and then a certain...
I'm not asking you the historical background or perspective. I'm just, what can you just tell us in plain, simple words? What is British parliamentary system? It is a monarchy, is it?
Sir, this is monarchy, constitutional monarchy. And like Pakistan, they have two houses.
Right.
There is an upper house, a House of Lords.
Welcome to CSPs Academy for CSS PMS preparation. CSS PMS तहरीरी इम्तिहान के तमाम मज़ामीन की ऑनलाइन और ऑन कैंपस तैयारी के साथ साथ सब्जेक्ट सिलेक्शन, असाइनमेंट चेकिंग, क्लास टेस्ट, मॉक एग्जाम, इंडिविजुअल टीचर डिस्कशन और फीडबैक सेशन का इनकाद किया जाएगा। इसके अलावा FPSC की तजवीज़ करदा बुक्स से बने मयारी नोट्स और CSP पब्लिशर की बेहतरीन बुक्स मुहैया की जाएंगी।
Hassan, is the word police an acronym, or is it a word of whichever language? Then what does it mean? What does police mean?
Ma'am, my apologies for that. I'm not sure about that exactly.
It's interesting that when you gave your definition of law, you said that it's basically customs, practices of a particular society that are converted into law, what we call customary law, right? But we follow British law also.
We do.
So does that mean that most of your society automatically becomes outlaw since they don't follow British law?
Ma'am, there is case where yes, we have our state law at the to certain extent, but I was talking about our law is basically divided into three different versions, as Anatol Levin has mentioned in his book Pakistan, a Hard Country. So this creates a dilemma on the legal front. Yes, there are people who follow British law, common law is there. We see precedents in our legal procedure. But when it comes to Sharia law and when it comes to local laws in Balochistan and certain areas of KPK and then FATA and other provinces, so we do not have a codified version of law at those places. So this creates a dilemma on the legal front. This was I was talking about.
I know what you're talking about. My question was different, but never mind. Is Sharia law codified?
To much extent, it has a certain version, but to some extent, it is uncodified because we have an element of ijtihad, and with the passage of time, it continues to evolve. As Iqbal writes in the Reconstruction of Religious Thought, that in the history we have 19 which have been developed by the human beings, 19 schools of thought in Islam. So it continues to evolve, but to certain extent in the form of Quran, in the form of Sunnah, yes, that is codified.
But is ijtihad being followed?
Due to some unfortunate reasons, historical reasons, attack on Baghdad, and then after that it has been followed in a very little amount. But yes, in some countries it is followed. In Saudi Arabia, we do see that they continue to evolve that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Elsa, you read political science, British history, so I'll ask question related to this. If you go and see British Constitution, do you see any resemblance of similar constitution in ancient Greeks?
So in ancient Greek, there was a democratic form of government. We see the evolution.
In which states?
Sir?
In which Greek city-state?
So there was, but currently I am
Like,
unable to.
I would
recall.
say, in Sparta, there was monarchy.
Sir,
Their constitution represents monarchy,
sir,
aristocracy, and democracy.
definitely.
Do you see the same thing in British Constitution?
I think it is different.
How?
This is actually practically it has some resemblance, but in the modern sense, we see that there is a common law which exists in the form of precedents, judicial precedents, and that has been not that does not exist in a codified form.
Okay. Can you tell me the differences between contractual philosophers and utilitarian philosophers on the issue of state, laws and government? Major differences. एक point का difference बताएं.
So when we talk about contractualists such as Hobbes, Locke, and
Yeah.
Rousseau,
Don't need to talk about them. What they say about state, evolution of state, laws and government, and what utilitarian thinks about these things.
the contractualists are basically concerned with the idea that there must be a certain relationship between a citizen and a state on the basis of legal code, on the basis of defined legal structure. Hobbes and Locke vary in their opinions, and then there is Rousseau. But all of them talk about a certain social contact. And they are not concerned about happiness of the citizen in that way, which we see in the form of utilitarians.
Fine. And about government?
So about government, again, all of them vary. Hobbes has its own, then there is a commonwealth. In the form of Locke, we see a certain democratic form of government.
Okay. Tell, according to Machiavelli, if ruler is kind, what will happen?
Then there will be ruin everywhere.
Then?
Because he would not be able to have a certain amount of control on the citizens. And the relationship he talks about between a citizen and a ruler, that has resemblance like a father and son, that would destroy.
What he suggested two very important things for the maintenance of state, Machiavelli.
There are a number of things actually, but the most important, I believe, is the use of force, use of religion in politics.
Use of?
Religion in politics.
In politics.
In his book, The Prince.
in case Machiavelli what suggested if they broke out war in the neighboring state of neighboring state, what prince should do?
The prince, according to Machiavelli, must take the side. He must be aligned with anyone.
Okay, in the concert of Europe, there were two kinds of forces of conservatism and forces of liberalism. Who represented forces of liberalism and who represented which states, European states, represented forces of conservatism?
In Britain,
In concert of Europe after the fall of Napoleon Bonaparte.
definitely Britain, France, they were on the side of liberalism. They were not primarily conservative states, but we see Russia, Austria-Hungary on the other side of the corner.
And one more.
There is one more, but I am unable to recall that.
Okay, just tell 2 or 3 important reasons for the failure of continental system.
The first reason was the reaction that came from the public, because when people were not in a position to get and to achieve their fundamental desires which they were receiving from the British, they were their fundamental needs, so they took stand against Napoleon.
My last question.
Sir.
What was the reason of failure of Weevil Plan?
Sorry, what plan?
Weevil Plan. Failure. Cause.
Because I believe in that Indians were not included.
No, I'm not talking about Cripps Mission, Simon Commission. I'm asking about the failure of Lord Weevil's plan.
Hindus, in this plan, Hindus tried to specify Muslims in the formation of that cabinet, I believe.
Thank you.
अच्छा Zia, there are good things and there are few things which we like to point out.
Sure.
ठीक है, वो ये है कि you are a good potential candidate to compete,
Sure.
but you are not in a state of preparedness. तुम हालत जंग में नहीं हो, ठीक है ना? This is a test. Interview is a communication between you are like these people and they want prompt reaction. When you are going for the written examination, it is a different. You have got time to think and then write. You can recall few things, but here you have to reply instant.
Sure.
ठीक है ना? Number 1, एक तो अपना introduction recast करो. Just go and explore yourself. Learn how to describe yourself. Know who are you. 10 पेजेस लिखो अपने ऊपर लैपटॉप पे, फिर उसमें से एक पेज निकालो जो को तुम अपना इंट्रोडक्शन बनाओ, प्रैग्मेटिक, रियलिटी बेस्ड, ठीक है, जिसमें अपने आप को रिफ्लेक्ट कर सकते हो, बिकॉज आई सी यू कैन डू इट. यू हैव बीन टू कराची, यू हैव बीन टू लाहौर, स्ट्रगल है तुम्हारी, ठीक है. देन यू नीड टू कम आउट इन ए स्टेट ऑफ प्रिपेयर्डनेस. हालात जंग में हो, ये कैजुअल अंदाज नहीं चलेगा. It is a serious business and you have got this opportunity of life. ये रोज रोज नहीं मिलती, ठीक है. You are going to the commission and you are asking them कि मुझे 35 साल का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट दे, ठीक है. At the age of 25 they will give you a contract, recommend करें 35 साल के लिए, तो they must have something solid with them. Listen to the question. सवाल सुनो, उसको एब्जॉर्ब करो और फिर जवाब दो, ठीक है ना. तुम जवाब दे रहे हो लेकिन वो खुद भी इधर उधर हो रहे हो. इसका है कि न्यूज़पेपर को पिछले 3 महीने के निकालो, अभी तुम्हारे पास टाइम है, ठीक है. 3 महीने के उनको देखो, इंटरनेशनल न्यूज़, नेशनल न्यूज़, इकोनॉमिक इश्यूज, सोशल इश्यूज एंड समथिंग ऑफ योर ओन इंटरेस्ट, ठीक है. और अपनी एक नोटबुक बनाओ, समथिंग जिस तरह पावर पॉइंट प्रेजेंटेशन होती है, इसी किस्म की एक नोटबुक को, जिस तरह पावर पॉइंट प्रेजेंटेशन है 1 2 3 4 पॉइंट से एनर्जी इशू 1 2 3 4, इकोनॉमिक चैलेंजेस 1 2 3 4, ठीक है, सोशल इश्यूज 1 2 3 4, ठीक है. लॉ, बेसिक जो लॉ के कंसेप्ट हैं क्लियर होने चाहिए. लॉ क्या है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन लॉ क्या है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनलिज्म क्या है, रूल ऑफ लॉ क्या है, ठीक है ना. पाकिस्तान के मेन फीचर्स क्या है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के, थिंग्स लाइक दैट, ठीक है. तो ये तुम्हें क्लियर होने चाहिए. ये नोटबुक बना लो जिसमें कम से कम 100 टॉपिक पे तुमने एक नोटबुक बना दी विद द नेक्स्ट 1 वीक. तो देन यू कीप ऑन रिपीटिंग, उनको रिहर्सल करो कि अगर ये मुझसे लॉ के बारे में पूछा तो ये कहूँगा, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन लॉ के बारे में पूछा ये कहूँगा, फेडरेशन का रोल क्या है, थिंग्स लाइक दैट. ठीक है ना. तो यू नीड टू प्रिपेयर योरसेल्फ. यू हैव गॉट द गुड पोटेंशियल, लेकिन आज की डेट में नहीं है. पोटेंशियल है लेकिन वो बाहर नहीं आया.
जी.
ठीक है. तो यू नीड टू वर्क हार्ड. यू कैन कम्पीट अप टू 100, 200, 210, 20 तक जा सकते हो, बट विद हार्ड वर्क.
डेफिनेटली आई विल. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
थैंक यू सर. आप सर बता दें.
अब देखिए, ये जो आपने इधर सर्विसेज लिखी हुई हैं, ग्रुप प्रेफरेंसेस के बारे में पता होना चाहिए आपको. ये ना कस्टम्स लिखा है आपको, तो कस्टम में आपको सी पोर्ट का नहीं पता, ड्राइव पोर्ट्स का नहीं पता. हाँ, ओवर इन्वॉइसिंग, अंडर इन्वॉइसिंग, और कस्टम्स डिपार्टमेंट काम क्या करते हैं, मतलब ये तो आपके फिंगर टिप्स पर होनी चाहिए. और ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंट्री सिस्टम, आप हिस्ट्री में चले गए, उसको ट्रेस कर रहे हैं यार, उसका जो है इन सिंपल टर्म्स आप एक्सप्लेन करें कि वो मोनार्की है, और फिर वो उसका जो पार्लियामेंट्री सिस्टम है थोड़ा सा उसके बारे में बता दिया, हाउस ऑफ लॉर्ड्स है ये वो. अच्छा, 2 चीज़ें ये मैंने पूछा नहीं आपसे, टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट. ये वीकनेस आप कह रहे हैं समटाइम्स ओवर कॉन्शियस और समटाइम्स ईटिंग अनहेल्दी फूड. तो ठीक है, मतलब अगर समटाइम्स है तो फिर व्हाई यू रिगार्ड इट एज योर वीकनेस? यानी कोई परमानेंट कोई इशू है फिर तो चलो ठीक है, लेकिन समटाइम्स वो तो हर कोई होता है यार, मैं भी हो जाता हूँ. तो ये हम भी जंक फूड खा लेते हैं, जो है एहतियात नहीं करते हैं.
लगता तो नहीं है यार तुम जंक फूड खाते हो.
मतलब कोई सॉलिड चीज लिखो, ऐसी जो है ना, लिखेंगे तो फिर अगले पूछेंगे आपसे, तभी मैं आपसे पूछ रहा हूँ. ठीक है. हाँ.
Zia, you're an intelligent boy. But in your responses, I could feel that there is lack of coherent argument. You have the logic, but you don't connect the dots correctly. That needs practice, because as Shaukat Saab said, you have potential. Now the potential has to be unlocked. It has to be realized. Otherwise, there's no point in having the potential if you don't really benefit from it. I would recommend firstly the services that you have offered. Learn in detail about them and critically analyze. Police order आपको आना चाहिए. पास के रिफॉर्म्स आपको आने चाहिए और क्रिटिकली उनको देखो कि उसकी क्या प्रोज एंड कॉन्स थे. ठीक है, जैसे इशरत हुसैन के रिफॉर्म्स हैं कि डिफॉर्म्स हैं. आई कुड हैव आस्क्ड यू दैट क्वेश्चन आल्सो, बट आई डिडंट थिंक थ्रू, because civil service is a competitive examination and you have to have the edge over the others, and that will come through your analytical thinking. So agar aap practice kare, you will do well. Baki you're fine. Thodi si mehnat karoge, you can be successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Saab.
आपकी इतनी अच्छी रीडिंग है, कुछ चीज़ों के तो आपने एनालिटिकल क्वेश्चंस के आंसर्स बहुत अच्छे किए, कुछ के अच्छे नहीं कर पाए, और कुछ जो है ऑब्जेक्टिव जिसका आंसर देना था कुछ आपने कर दिए, कुछ ऑब्जेक्टिव नहीं कह सके. ठीक है, इन चीज़ों को थोड़ा सा रिलेट करके देखें. तो इन पार्ट के ऊपर, और इंडो पाक हिस्ट्री से मैं टाइम शॉर्ट था तो कुछ पूछ नहीं सका, थोड़ा सा लाजमी देखिएगा. दिल्ली सल्तनत टाइम पीरियड, वॉर्स, इंपॉर्टेंट सिग्निफिकेंट वॉर्स, और ब्रिटिश देखें. जो ब्रिटिश ने दे इंट्रोड्यूस रिप्रेजेंटेटिव इंस्टीट्यूशन इन सब कॉन्टिनेंट. इंडियन काउंसिल एक्ट 1773, 1784, पिट्स इंडिया एक्ट 1793 का जो लैंड सेटलमेंट एक्ट है, कॉर्नवालिस कोड है, इंडियन पीनल कोड है. इन चीज़ों को भी थोड़ा सा देखिएगा. टाइम शॉर्ट था, मैं दूसरों पे ज़्यादा आपसे क्वेश्चन पूछूं. तो जो स्पार्टा का था ना, स्पार्टा और ब्रिटेन का दोनों का कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में बड़ी सिमिलैरिटी थी, बट बोथ टू सम एक्सटेंट दे वर टोटलिटेरियन. तो इन चीज़ों को भी थोड़ा सा देखिएगा. वहाँ पर मोनार्की, एरिस्टोक्रेसी, डेमोक्रेसी. यहाँ पर भी मोनार्की, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन मोनार्की, सॉर्ट ऑफ एरिस्टोक्रेसी एंड डेमोक्रेसी, इस तरह का सेम. तो एथेंस में डेमोक्रेसी थोड़ा सा फॉल कर गई थी बाद में, सोलोन्स कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के बाद. तो ये, और जो है पॉलिटिकल साइंस की चीज़ों को ना किस किस्म के आंसर्स दें ना, जैसे कि कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वाले हैं वो सपोजिशन पे खड़े थे, और यूटिलिटेरियन उनके पास टूल क्या था? यूटिलिटी का।
जी
इसके जरिए हर चीज को एक्सप्लेन करते थे। आपके पास रीडिंग है, अब इस एक्सरसाइज के बाद उनको जाके थोड़ा सा रिवाइज कीजिएगा, ठीक है? और आपका पोटेंशियल ज्यादा है इससे जितने आपने आज स्कोर किए।
चले बेस्ट ऑफ लक।
ओके सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच।